snipers. I'm so excited to be kicking this off. KIX versus Talon. What's going to happen?
We've got the return of a lot of familiar faces, as you notice on the Talon side. CQB from Hong Kong Attitude, as was mentioned. Apudo making that grand return as well. He's had a bit of that tie dethroned from him, but now going back in. New team and new season, a new opportunity for a lot of the old faces to make their mark.
Straight out the gate, both on some very interesting, quite different compositions. Talon have a double sniper here.
Double sniper on the Sanctum is going to be an interesting pick against the Caspers. McCree to start things out with the Super McCree that we're seeing so much of in Season 3, and already you're seeing the headshots coming through. Woosik down.
Yeah, this is definitely the caliber of talent you want on those snipers, and look at how they have just kept KIX kettled in these corners. That's Casper going down. Sounded like Dr. Seuss out here. Talon off to a really hot start, going to be able to cap off that.
And that's going to be an instant cap out, like you mentioned. Talon Esports, nothing difficult about this so far. What you do notice now, KIX making a bit of a swap up on the composition, back onto that 3-3 that we expected a lot of teams to go with. Woosik on the Winston predominantly here, primarily here, as they are going to be pushing back into the Orisa. They don't want to be pushing with their own Orisa. It's time now to see what they can make on the rotation.
And just wrapping around the point to start with. Barrier shield going to be moving a little bit further back. Apudo taking some pain, but he's got someone in the pocket. Finally goes down to Sheng Jianbao. Gagora as well. Muse now drops and KIX. Come back swinging, looking very much reinvigorated on this 3-3 against the double sniper of Talon. Very quick cap back.
That's a full team wipe as well. Bashful off the map to complete the full 6. And Talon Esports without the opportunity to actually use their ultimates. We're fairly close to them, but not quite there. Going to be fairly behind now. Cap does go over to KIX, and you also notice Talon Esports kind of caught off the back side with KIX making that long rotation. Talon just couldn't get back enough in time.
They just happened to make that same change. We'll have to charge those ultimates up. Luckily for them, KIX don't have too much in the pocket, but Sheng Jianbao gets an early pick on Bashful. Woosik low though, so trade back, but losing Muse. Talon are really starting to run on MT. Now lacking CQB. This is really important for KIX. They've managed to hold, managed to get those picks, and off that have charged up crucial ultimates.
And that's the thing, because they managed to get onto the 3-3 goats first, because they won that previous fight so cleanly, a full 6 kills, they were able to get these ultimates up without having to spend them as well, still sitting on the 3 they've recently built. Muse is now going to be coming back onto the Rhine, and Talon Esports still need time to build charge.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit rough for Talon. Again, they do still have that caliber of talent. Could just get a pick, you never know, but KIX are looking pretty hearty here. Set up on the point. They're having to wait for Talon to come to them.
Waiting for grab.
Bashful took some chunks there. Nice bump off the edge, and that's going to be Muse already down and out for the count. KIX, that's only one ultimate, now the rally as well. That's a bit of a freebie. Woosik gets a second bump, a third as well. What a high mileage Primal Rage.
And that is just a lot of momentum. Once again, a clean fight. No one dying on the side of KIX. It's been Talon getting themselves into a really difficult place, bashing their heads against the wall, multiple fights in a row. They're coming up to what will be their final opportunity to get this point back. They have 33%, but KIX, they have all the momentum, they have all the ultimates. Talon are still waiting. Apudo does have grab very soon.
It's really all they got to go off here. They've only got the one support ultimate as well. That's going to have to come out now as the grab self-destruct combo is laid out. Finds Apudo! Oh, that's so rough! And he was just trying to channel the grab. That does not end up coming out. Ravalab does lose the mech, but that's the only thing Talon have got back. There we go. Bump on Casper. And finally, they've started to make some headway. KIX through a lot of ultimates in there. Talon, power to them there. Weather the storm, and will finally recap as KIX hit 99.
And a quick correction there. Apudo did manage to get that grab. That was 2 grabs at the same time, overlaid on top of one another, but not enough defense to stop the self-destruct from claiming that kill against Talon. However, they were able to make those counter trades in with that transcendence, able to save every other member that wasn't caught in that self-destruct. Now Talon Esports have to play a perfect defense here.
They do have an Earth Shatter coming up available. Very preemptive sound barrier. They want to go in, they want to go now, and it does sort of pay off. It's a 1-for-1 on the Zenyatta's. That's maybe not ideal, but finally able to get Sheng Jianbao. KIX are on the retreat as this is happening, and you can see the power of the Reinhardt in these tighter spaces. Woosik barely gets out alive. Bao not so lucky.
This is where you need to see the cleanliness as well. KIX losing a couple of members, but it's a couple of members less than Talon Esports have managed in the past. When Talon Esports have lost a fight, it's been mainly a full team wipe. 80% now almost for them. So they're working their way up to the next couple of ultimates here. But when you start looking at the Zaryas, Casper's at 93, Pluto's not even at 50 yet. Talon are looking like they'll struggle.
Also, Arbal massively leading. CQB could have a big impact. Oh, that was nearly a bump off the side. Quick fingers from WOWC to charge in, but he's exposed on the point thanks to that. And that's a huge advantage. That is not a hot grab. Casper tossing it as he was getting bumped and ends up dying as well. And now it's a wash for Talon. The Earth Shatter out of Muse to help secure it. Arbal goes down. Bravalive does touch back on the point, but he is now the last man standing there. Going to come back in nice and quick with a wrecking ball. WOWC probably not long for this world. And he's going to end up over the edge as well.
Tough games for both sides.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the 99 to 99 there, but Talon, like you mentioned, they were able to get that final cap, win that final fight as well, get themselves in a position where Pluto does have enough time to get his own grab, despite being nearly 50% behind. And we start to look at KIX when they had the opportunity to finish up this game, when they had the opportunity multiple times where they were ahead in ultimates, where they had the advantage, but couldn't quite capitalize, couldn't quite execute. Bit of a whiff grab, as was mentioned by Casper on the side, couldn't collect the kills, and for KIX, a bit of an unfortunate loss, but they do show a little bit of the caliber there as well. So far, able to keep up with Talon Esports 1-1.
Certainly not just outclassed, but you would like to see them building that momentum and riding it to the finish. That's the difference maker here. Talon already 1-0 up means KIX can do it. They're going to have to turn it on now.
And WOWC's been one of the players on KIX so far off the back of one round and has had a decent amount of impact, at least on that Sombra. But Talon Esports want to go for something different. It's got to be a Puto on the Sombra.
Yeah, I'm liking this. If Puto able to just kind of get back to the classics, some of the Pixies very strong at and isolating Bravalive. He's going to go down. Muse just doing big chunks of damage, and with the wrap around, KIX just found themselves way too far forward. They do get a couple of picks for their trouble, but Talon are going to get the point.
And the Puto's hack target was so pristine there as well. Arbal, the Lucio player, getting him hacked out means no healing, no speed boost for KIX. Talon Esports see that they're able to speed through with CQB's own speed boost, and they're able to just collapse on top of the entire KIX squad with no way to back out. And as we've seen on Sanctum, it's Talon Esports taking the first cap, taking the early lead. This time around, though, can they hold on to that lead?
Charging up some big ultimates. That's the real difference. They didn't have those last time around. Already coming onto an Earth Shatter and a grab and an EMP. Going to be a tough fight for KIX. That's a shadow in from the side. Muse not getting much for it, but it's enough to pick some tanks. And suddenly KIX all fall down. Just not quite sure how to handle that situation. Felt like they just kind of panicked.
Talon only got about one member of that Earth Shatter as well. There was a secondary bash coming through from Bashful. But KIX, they had enough members, kind of stunned up, just enough members out of the fight for Talon Esports to progress onwards, and they didn't have to use the other ultimates. EMP notably still available. Graviton Surge from Gagora notably still available. These are two big ultimates they will need to be able to get a lot of mileage out of, especially now Jazzy does have a Transcendence, but Puto needs to make sure he's included in the hack.
Notably as well, those ultimates not necessarily available for KIX. Aside from, like you said, the Transcendence for Jazzy, and now In has been able to match that. WOWC taking big, able to get picked off. Gagora eats up Bravalive's grab, or rather, sorry, Bravalive eats up Gagora's grab, but it does not count for much, unfortunately. That's with EMP held on to. KIX kind of struggling to make headway here.
And this is where you see Talon as well. Multiple angle approach. Puto from the low ground, looking for the hack onto targets there. Manages to get enough attention. You saw on the sort of hub there as well. WOWC getting stunned out, instantly taken down. And it goes 3-3 mirror. Ryan goes down. That's a big advantage for the other team.
Puto's got a great inside track here as well. Just going to come straight in behind. Able to get right onto Jazzy. Perfect target as that grab had come out. Bravalive does still find a Puto in the trade back, but In keeps the team topped off. Now Arbal is the only legs KIX have to stand on. In gets picked. Talon a little bit tough spot here. CQB gets the sound barrier out just in the nick of time, but Muse's Shatter is nothing to write home about. Ends up going down for his trouble, and it looks like KIX have been able to claw this one back. That is a very late grab from Gagora. They do pick Casper. They're trying to commit in here, but it's just not really paying off.
This is where Talon are throwing away too many ultimates. They're losing the opportunity to come back as well. They're at 99%. They're trying to hold on. They're not going to get any more extra percentage by throwing these ults in, and it will affect their take-back potential. The EMP was used defensively after a clutch grab by Casper, pulling the trigger first. Puto responds to Jazzy, but that's not the kill you want in that specific moment. The Transcendence off the table for KIX. They've already won the fight. It doesn't matter.
Now is in an ultimate deficit. You've really got to hand it to KIX there. Apudo takes chunks. That's going to queue out a Transcendence. A nice early pull on the side of Talon to get that out of Jazzy. And now KIX don't have a lot to go on until that shatter comes up from Wusik, and Talon meanwhile leading that in charge, coming up on a grab from Gogora. Now KIX cycle into ultimates, but the shatter goes straight into Muse's shield, and now Talon gets to respond with their own. That's the big one. Able to pick Wusik in the mix of that, and Transcendence for good measure from in. Shenjing Bao gonna drop, and Talon at a good number advantage. They stop the remake, they get the EMP on the remaining members, and despite the grab finally coming out from Casper, Talon have secured themselves a handy team wipe, and at 99% they are looking poised to close out Nepal.
This is a much more convincing win for Talon Esports. Still a few hiccups here or there, but it will end up being a 2-0 to start things out with, claiming their first map. You can see the teething issues there, the sort of teething problems on the Talon side. We know they have 3 nationalities, 3 languages, all now communicating in English. A couple of mishaps, especially with ultimate usage towards the end there as well. Got a little bit desperate, but you also notice on the side of KIX, kind of the problems that we may have expected coming in here. Lack of experience, low standings coming in from previous qualifying tournaments does all weigh against them. It was a fairly competitive Sanctum, but it seems like as we progressed on, Shrine was much less competitive.
And I mean, look, they did still have the chops, right? They were able to win some fights, and they did play relatively well. But there were also those moments where, like you said, I think the lack of experience did show a little bit, and it was more in areas where I feel discipline matters. Talon were a little bit lacking in that. Perhaps you can chalk it up to the fact that this is a rebuild. On the side of KIX, however, there were times where they would just end up in a weird spot. It seemed like they didn't really know what to do, or were somewhere where they really shouldn't have ended up in the first place, whether it was too far forward, unsure how to retreat. I recall, standing out kind of by the stairs, way away from the point. One member gets hit by an Earth Shatter, and the team didn't really seemed to know what to do, even though nothing had been particularly impactful. So if they can tighten up some of that discipline-related stuff, which, to be fair, just kind of comes with experience, the team does clearly have the caliber to win some fights. They're not just getting straight outclassed here.
And what I think the strength of KIX so far that we've seen over the course of 2 rounds is the initiative is at least there. They're able to press the W button, get into the other team, force fights out there. Whether they're ahead or not, whether they have advantage or not, they're able to get things started. They're not a passive team, and this is where you can start looking for that discipline to dial back in the times where they maybe should play a bit more defensively. But it's better now to be an aggressive team to rather than be an overly defensive team where you're not really getting anything done. This is where KIX can really build something off of a good foundation to have a lot of good team play. We'll now have to see in the sort of further maps in the series if that's something that KIX can really push forward to the next level.
And with that, of course, we are going to be moving forward into our next map of the series. We now move forward onto Hybrid, and of course, our pick for that is going to be Blizzard World. We may just get to find out exactly how Hybrid works.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is Hybrid. 2 teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
And there you have it. That is Hybrid. And as we said before we went to the break, of course, or before we went to the explainer rather, Blizzard World. We haven't seen Blizzard World yet in Contenders. Seen it a bit in Overwatch League, and I guarantee you the teams will have been scrimming on it as well. They are familiar, but we are still going into some new, somewhat uncharted territory in terms of actual competitive play between these teams.
And I'd like to see if the teams want to respond to that by utilizing their DPS picks. We know so far from seeing Talon Esports, especially when you have a player like a Pudo on the squad, you want to go into the width of his hero pool, which does include a lot of those DPS picks like the Sombra that we've seen so far, like Widowmakers of previous seasons as well. So that's something that for specifically Talon Esports, and I think they might want to get into on the KIX side of things. Don't know too much about the team so far. Let's see if that's something they want to do as well.
And that is often where we do seem to see a bit of stratification. It might not even say anything particularly negative about KIX, mind you, if they come out with DPSs and get a bit outclassed. I feel like that comes down more to the caliber of DPS that is sitting here on Talon, especially in the hands of a Pudo. That's to say nothing of Bashful as well, who is certainly no slouch as a DPS player. So it'll be interesting if KIX opt to do the same thing, how well they measure up. I feel like that's going to be a real measure of this team.
And this is also where, as we've seen on Nepal starting things out with the 0-2, they were reasonably closer than you'd expect on paper for how the teams are going to perform. This is also a bit of an early litmus test for Talon Esports with their rebuild as well. How are they going to do for the rest of the season? You'd want to get games like this out of the way quickly, where this would probably be one of their higher likely games to lose just because it is week one. This is where the team is still somewhat in their early phases of gelling together. They want to get those problems out of the way early, get past the teething issues, and then they can do a lot better.
I would so go for this as well. Look at it, it's beautiful.
Looks very difficult to build. That area, that's not rainproof.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to build, so much so that they missed a couple of bricks in that ceiling. Like, I'd like to think that that's like, if that was actually at the theme park, that would be intentional. Because if you just go there and like, it looks pretty pristine, right? If everything is like absolutely flawless, except for like this one slightly collapsed bit of the roof, you'd be a bit concerned. You'd be like, can they just not afford a repair guy right now? Like, is this like a leaky buildings issue? Like, it's not up to construction standards. What's going on? What's the story?
It's also interesting there's a payload on the second map where I can understand the payload in the third part of the map where you do want to maybe take a tour of the Diablo section, but on the second part it seems like that's somewhere where people just walk through.
It's also a bit peculiar to like have to unlock the tour. Like that's not how it normally happens. Like when I go to a theme park, like I go to a spot, right? And I do have to queue in that. So I guess I have to stand in a spot for a certain length of time until the tour bus comes back around. But it's not like there's a lady standing there with a stopwatch that's like, all right, well you've stood there for the 30 seconds with nobody else around. So here's your tour. Like it's not really how it works.
Let's go ahead and take a tour of the actual Blizzard world in the game that is. And when we get to that third point, much like the third points of a lot of hybrids and even escorts, that's where we expect probably the most 3-3 goats to come through. But in this opening section, as we've alluded to, I'm potentially thinking the DPS is going to come through, especially if you're Talon Esports. You know the Sombra has worked. That's likely going to be a good pick.
And again, this is where we might see some of the shakier aspects of this rebuild Hong Kong attitude. Already looking pretty good though. Sorry, Talon. Oh, I need to check my attitude. CQB's on this team, whatever. But what I'm actually trying to say here is they already look pretty good coming out of Nepal. I hope there aren't like future major issues, but if there are, this is still the time where they want to find them and fix them.
So this is a way for KIX as well. They're going to try and get into their own Sombra. They are, of course, defending first, playing mainly this Goat Shell, which is probably going to end up being their best way to win. A lot of people call Goats the great equalizer. If you have, and I'm certainly not going to insinuate they have worse players, but if you really want to measure up against better known players, more veteran players, Goats is the way to go.
Speaking of, Talon have scouted it out a little bit, decided they want to swap Muse over onto the Reinhardt. Casper has done some good scouting here, so KIX do know this is coming.
And this is where speed is important. Talon don't want to waste too much time here. Casper's nearly on 40%. has to watch his own positioning, and it's going to go down.
Yeah, revealed himself in a bit of an unfortunate way, not getting a hack, not really getting many bullets, and with that suddenly KIX immediately at a numbers disadvantage. They really needed to be able to stall that out, get ideal hacks, and charge up Casper's ultimate. They ended up with nothing to go on there.
You can see there for KIX as well, they were waiting for that opening hack to come through. They didn't want to initiate onto Talon Esports without that advantage, want to make use of the Sombra. Now they're going to have to find a way to make use of the Sombra on the second point instead. A very quick one attempt from Talon to get through to B.
And now the tour begins. KIX are just trying to disrupt it. I don't know, it's like some teenagers throwing eggs at the road train.
So Bashful did get himself hacked up there, but there wasn't any way for KIX to really go forward. In fact, it's KIX going down.
Yeah, as soon as KIX go forward, Talon are just barreling into them. They're going, you want to come to us? Fine, we'll take the fight here. Talon honestly just seem a lot more prepared for KIX's aggression here.
The only thing stopping Talon from moving forward is the fact that they still do have to wait for the cut, so they are going to back off, rally around that point, and for KIX that means an opportunity for themselves to also now regroup. EMP finally coming along, third fight into the game, and already partway through B.
Casper finally has that EMP available, looking for the angle, does get a good number of targets. There's going to be a shield coming out onto Muse, so he's going to survive most of that damage. Gogora's mech is so far the only casualty, and now Talon looking to hit back. Decent Earth Shatter from Woosik, but no follow-up. Muse finally going to get finished off after a second hack. Grab out from Apudo, the follow-up not so hot, and Bashful dead as well. Bit of an unfortunate use there for Talon. KIX are going to finally find some footing.
Really, really good timing on the EMP as well. You can see In was just off the Transcendence, about 90%. CQB was also hacked up, so the lack of healing coming from him and the lack of speed boost means Talon get caught up. A lot of members could not do anything in the EMP. The response then, both grabs coming through, or rather one grab coming through from Apudo, not able to win the fight for KIX, who are now ahead, at least in that grab department. Lab, the one to watch.
That being said, Talon did still get to make a bit of progress on the payload there, so KIX do still need to actually get a fight here to make this count for something. They connect the grab, they're looking to follow up. Nice timing on the sound barrier. Gogora's going to get a self-destruct out as well before losing the mech. That forces the KIX way back. Lots of space to play with, but nice EMP as Talon trying to move forward to occupy that space. Apudo's got a grab, but he can't commit it yet. By the time he'll be able to, may just be a bit late here. You can see Talon backing up for a half second. Now they want to come back in with that grab, immediately drop Casper, and they get the payload back underway as KIX are in full retreat.
This is where KIX need to be getting a bit more value out of the EMP, and not just talking about members getting hacked. They got 4 out of 6, that's a lot, but they're not actually getting the kills. It was 2-2 in terms of trades. That's actually positive trade for Talon Esports when you consider they're the ones receiving the EMP on the other side. Apudo wipes it out, realizes, hey, we still got members, pops the grab out, they want to fight.
That's a bit of an unfortunate timing one there for KIX as well. Talon already got the cap, and now KIX in full retreat again. They realize they committed a bit late, and this gives Talon the initiative. They have so much room. Look at how far back KIX are getting forced.
Jazz is in trouble.
This does mean the payload's not moving, but they're getting the kills here. They're charging up ultimates to re-equalize, and they'll still have possession of the card.
It's a huge amount of staggers coming through as well, and it means that Talon Esports just get a little bit of free push in this opening section of the final point. And for KIX, waiting for an opportunity to use something like that Earth Shatter. Muse coming up to his own right now. Casper trying to recharge the EMP. Woosik is so far being 2 maps in a row the primary target for Talon Esports. Always stunned out, always hacked out, always taken down in some fashion.
Casper's kind of not where he wants to be here. As Talon move forward, he's just got more and more distance to try and get through just to catch up a bit, lay some pot shots from the back. KIX coming up on some ultimates though.
And this is where KIX need to pull the trigger. They've already dropped the grab that was coming from Apudo actually.
Yeah, that's a bit rough. KIX not quite pulling the trigger quick enough, but they did still find Muse in the mix of that. Casper getting picked off, but Apudo down. Talon unable to follow up on the grab, maybe a little bit too itchy on the trigger finger there, and KIX end up snagging themselves a win.
And this is where KIX, they want to move forward. Apudo sees the opportunity, drops that Graviton Surge. Both teams kind of get out of that one. Talon Esports maybe just slightly on the worst side considering they have to back off. The cart has stopped moving. EMP is now back in rotation for KIX, and they still have a grab to use.
I like this rotation from Talon, trying to get in front of the cart, just give themselves some space to play with Apudo taking misjumps in the rotation. And that's the EMP, funneled right in and committed that Transcendence, but not quite quick enough to save his fellow teammates. Now Gogora taking chunks, Bashful's going to get picked, and KIX again find themselves a very nice, high-efficiency fight.
This is where they had to use 2 ultimates, but they managed to get the Transcendence out of In. The problem there is, it was 5 hacked members in the EMP. The 6th one they missed out was, in fact, the Zenyatta for In. went in. So if they'd gotten all 6, that would have been a far cleaner fight for them. They still managed to win, but what are they going to be able to rotate into now ultimate-wise? Because WuSik's still on 80%. They have one defensive ultimate, but there's a lot of firepower from Talon.
This time Talon aren't bothering to make any kind of rotation. They just want to go right on forward, throwing in the self-destruct. WuSik not able to get back to safety. Had to keep the shield up, and that left him too vulnerable in terms of speed. And now Talon trying to press that advantage. May just be able to get another member here, but even if they don't, this is all space for the cart. That's all they really want right now.
What KIX are trading for is positioning for ultimates. They haven't used the sound barrier just yet. Coming online soon is going to be both EMP and Grav, and they need those ultimates very quickly. The card is about to reach the final section. Talon are about to cap. 1 minute 50 still available.
This time, though, no Transcendence to contend with. CQB commits that sound barrier, and off the back of it, they engage and find Casper. KIX a bit too slow to react to that one. They do find Muse once again. Grab from Apudo to try and answer Brabalab, and they're going to get a lot more out of it than what KIX did from theirs. Now Casper suddenly finds himself all alone as he reapproaches. Gonna have to go in with that EMP. Lone Man trying to follow it up, gets drilled down by the hard charge in the pocket of Apudo. Hack or no, the man is a beast. That's going to be a full cap out for Talon.
This is where, if you're Talon Esports, you're starting to really get a feel for what are the opponents trying to do, what are the weaknesses we can exploit as well. A couple of missed approaches coming through from KIX, losing wrong members at the wrong times, not getting full value out of some of the combos, maybe being forced to overcommit in situations where they wanted a cheaper fight. But the main problem that we did see at the end there, Casper going down to Bashful right as KIX wanted to start to use some of those ultimates. The EMP not available, then the stagger kills coming through, all getting killed at different times. Casper's free spawning by himself, can't approaching the final section. Casper just has to use that EMP, catches about 5 members, but there's no damage.
It often feels like KIX in a lot of these situations are like 80 to 90% of the way there. Like they are actually getting really good connections on a lot of their EMPs. They are getting pretty decent positioning on a lot of their grabs as well. What they're not getting is the kind of follow-up we would expect out of most teams in that situation. We do just have a little bit of a pause coming out, of course, so do just stick tight for that. It's interesting that this seems to be a recurring thing for KIX here, but it is just a little bit of polish. There's not some massive disconnect here, which is honestly quite good to see.
What we also do see is when you look at Nepal, one of the main sort of strengths of the KIX team was they're able to initiate, they're able to play aggressive, which again is better than being an overly defensive team. But what you are also seeing now is Talon able to feel out that aggression, punish it in a lot of different ways as well. Apudo playing patiently with the Grav, playing patiently as Azaria. You also see a lot of cases where actually it's now Talon Esports pulling the trigger first themselves, finding the opportune moment, getting those early picks, constantly putting KIX down onto the back foot. Again, main target here has predominantly been WuSik on the Rhine. He's always being stunned out in some sort of way. He's always being punished. He's always been the main target of the Talon side. And when they have a Rhine advantage, it gives Muse a lot of room to play with, not just in Earth Shatters, but as a 6-man unit. They can get through that big shield and get to the meaty members on the backside.
Speaking of Reinhardt's, though, one thing that has been a recurring issue on the side of Talon, Muse is dying a lot. He's getting picked a lot, and often in fights they actually go on to win. It's not even necessarily in unfavorable situations or anything like that. He just seems to be consistently getting picked. Now, in all fairness, a part of that is it seems KIX are really trying to go after the Reinhardt as well, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. We were just talking about how Talon have been really harping on WuSik, but at the same time, there are moments where Muse is dying where it really feels like he shouldn't be, especially in those fights where Talon is winning by a real wash, and sometimes he's just getting picked in odd situations. So again, a bit of a screw to be tightened, I would say, on the side of Talon.
And this is the sort of the part where you do play against a Sombra as well, where as a Rhine player, you're probably going to be one of the main targets. One side is going to be playing a Sombra, the other side isn't. It's going to be a bit of a reverse of what we maybe expected. KIX, the team that you probably think would be more willing to play the 3-3 goats as a tradition, and then looking at the Talon side, you think maybe be more willing of the team to play the Sombra or the DPS picks. We, of course, got the reverse of that, and unfortunately for KIX, it just didn't really work out too well for them. And when it did work out, it was strange in the fact that they had, like you mentioned, decent EMPs, mostly across the board, but the actual follow-up, the actual ability to get clean fight wins and really come out on top, even when situations they had the EMP down, No defensive ultimates on the side of Talon Esports, either because the supports were hacked or they just didn't have the ultimates. Still even trades, notably on that B point.
It's curious, isn't it? Like, it's not like the Sombra has just been this complete non-starter. It's just been that it hasn't been able to get over the finish line. Like, it's not often that that's what we see being an issue. Often we'll see teams, especially newer entrants into Contenders, who often don't have as much experience as some of these other teams. We'll see them have, you know, limited compositional pools when they try and run other things. We'll see them not quite be able to connect ultimates. We'll see things kind of play out very strangely, weird positionings. For the most part, KIX have actually been pretty tidy on a lot of that. There are some moments where they're maybe separating or overextending where they really shouldn't be. But for the most part, it's actually a lot better than what we often see from these teams that come into Contenders fresh. Like I said, it's not that the Sombra's a non-starter, it's that it's not getting over the finish line, and that's a much harder issue to diagnose.
And that's more of a team issue than the actual Sombra, because like we said, it's been 4+ EMP targets multiple times in a row.
Which is especially better than what a lot of experienced teams can even do.
Moments where you are getting the right members down as well. You are getting a lot of places where a lot of supports are being targeted. You are getting the right amount of hacks in the most part, except for that one where they kind of miss in, but he also positioned in a great way. So you have this sort of situation where most of the ults are connecting. Both the Ryans have not really been getting good chatters, but that's been evened out by the fact that they've both been that scenario. For everyone else, the Gravs have been nailing, the EMPs have been there, everything else has been connecting good.
All right, with that pause all resolved, done and dusted, we're going to go ahead and swap the sides out here. It does appear that KIX are looking to lean into the Sombra once again, but Talon wanting to do the very same, or maybe KIX don't quite want to commit into it.
And this A site was really where KIX really was a bit of a letdown on that initial defense. Casper, if you remember, got caught out very early, trying to get that hack onto someone from Talon Esports, and KIX was just waiting a bit too long, getting themselves fully team wiped as Casper just went down super early. So on this offense now, if KIX want a comparable time, if they want to even have a good shot of finishing the map, they actually do need a very comparable time on at least A.
Alrighty, Aputo's going to go ahead, move around the side, wants to get that early scouting. KIX, I don't think they're actually going to bother scouting so much here. I think they're just wanting to commit to the Reinhardt, which is probably a decent idea as it is anyway.
You can see Aputo here, he's waiting for the right moment to hack. He wants to make sure his team can actually collapse as soon as he is able to get the hack. If I'm not mistaken, his translocator was taken down, so has to be a bit more careful now.
And, I mean, it's not too big an issue because honestly, KIX rotating forward as they are means they're kind of coming to Talon. Aputo's not a separator anymore. Big, long rotation from KIX.
And last time KIX did this on Sanctum, Talon were caught with their pants down. So this time around, use that straight down.
Yeah, and that's going to expose Bashful. Jazzy does go down. Look, it was a decent hack onto Sonic. Agora at least finds another one back. Aputo's still wreaking havoc in the back line here, but honestly, the better part of KIX have made it onto the point now. Bravalav does lose the mech. They finish off Agora. Now it's really just CQB and Aputo, but KIX have rotated back off. They lose Bravalav, and they're really kind of taking their time, finally starting to taxi some members back in, finding CQB, and now they're looking to set up on the point.
And it's been even trade so far. Casper on 100 energy as well. Talon trying to reinforce here, but a lot of KIX members on the point. Casper now being hacked out, but they have all 6.
This is where that closer respawn pays off. The cat goes through, and these 4 members of Talon here, a little bit far forward. Muse gets punished for it. The rest able to rotate back. Muse not so lucky.
And part of this initial fight, the issue is for Talon Esports, constantly one member down. They haven't actually been able to fully regroup as 6. Even saw right towards the end there. Moves a little bit too far forward, being picked out. Now they have to wait until they can get everyone together. This is now going to give KIX the time they need, get this cart rolling along, and that first attempt fight went on to A, they managed to complete that.
That being said, Talon are setting up something quite nice here. Translocated right over the top. Now they need to get that follow up. They're going to isolate Bravalav, and also going to be able to pick Bluesick as well. So that's decent conversion. The rest looking like they will possibly get out. No, Jazzy not quite. Sonic does escape, as does Casper.
And what we see the difference here between the 2 Sombra plays that we have noticed in this map so far is Aputo. This time around, 6 members in the EMP, Jazzy included. There's not going to be that Transcendence counterplay from KIX. All KIX can do is slowly back out, try and not lose any members, try and not lose enough members to really give Talon the snowball potential that they're looking for.
Now that they're on the attack as well, the impetus for KIX to get really high impact, high efficiency fights is only greater. Nice movement by Casper to get a grab in. anything, but counter Shatter and a laid on self-destruct, or rather with self-destruct thanks to the Shatter. Now WuSik counter Shatter, they get CQB for their trouble. There's a hack out though onto Casper, so no barriers for the time being. Not gonna matter though, they pop Muse. Bao does die for the trouble, but they trade off with Bashful, and KIX are back underway on the cart with all ultimates being burned on both sides.
All things considered though, KIX had a lot more ultimates to burn at Talon Esports. This ends up being a slight victory, at least economically, because they managed to get all 5 out of Talon, and they can still defend. Talon are able to now regroup as a full 6 and get to the cart in time.
Again, where KIX just kind of hiccuped a little bit, Talon are able to move straight back in, no fear, take possession of the cart, and a very quick retreat by KIX. Does mean they're safe, but it also means they've chosen to not try and fight that one out.
And now we're back into the vortex of the EMP as well. Puro's looking for positioning. If he gets enough members and there's not going to be any defensive ults, that's all 6 once again.
Straight in, and right as Bao committed a rally as well. Talon charging up a ton of ultimates. Some already had come online and others charged up thanks to the kills they got via that EMP. All told, that was an ideal defense for Talon.
And now the Talon ultimate spin cycle is in full action. 5 more ultimates coming online as the EMP was used the last fight beforehand. Apudo now 2 out of 2, 6 members both times in the EMP. KIX are running into a brick wall, and Talon are so ready for this defense. 5 members on that on the ultimate charge now, and nothing still for KIX.
This is looking pretty good for Talon, not gonna lie. They just want to rotate through some of these ultimates now. KIX have really got their work cut out for them, and they don't have too much time to play with either.
Yeah, they need time to get through this defense.
Whoa!
Get the ultimates in there. Shadow does move in.
That was big. They bumped Muse way away, which does mean they aren't able to get the kill, but they forced a Transcendence. They got a grab out of Gogora that couldn't get followed up on. That was actually pretty stunning from KIX. WuSik getting a lot for that. Now Casper rotating into a grab.
So at least one.
Get it out from Muse. Gravelab going to get D-Max, and that was nearly at a self-destruct. Unfortunately, they can't follow up on the grab from Casper, and the EMP from Apudo to close it out. Nearly a disaster for Talon and a huge success for KIX, but they steer the ship clear. It did cost them a lot, though.
Make that 3 out of 3 now. Apudo with the perfect coverage. Only 4 members alive, and all 4 hacked out by that EMP. Talon Esports, it was an expensive defense. All 5 ultimate, 6 including the EMP, were used. KIX now in a position where they can actually cap the B point, but in what time? We got less than 1 minute 30 now, and we still have to get through C.
And that is the trouble that KIX are running into. As much as they're in a much better position approaching this fight, still a long walk ahead. Self-destruct makes space, but it doesn't really put that much pressure on. Suddenly they don't have much to go on.
It's an early sound barrier.
Yeah, they want to get aggressive on this, but unfortunately they don't commit. They actually threw it as Talon committing to them. Nice catch from Gogora though, and Muse as well, going to get finished off despite both those ultimates coming out. Both effectively totally whiffed, and a Transcendence Force from in. Very late EMP from Apudo, kind of a last hurrah to see if he can maybe get some kills between him and Bashful, but surprise, surprise, they cannot. And now Talon going to be driven off this point. KIX looking to secure this one. Talon decided to keep committing. They really want to burn this clock down, and they've even forced KIX back. What is this? The tanks come back in, and KIX just crumble.
And the problem is, because we are so close to the C point here, Talon actually have respawn advantage. It's KIX who are taking a longer path to be able to get full reinforcements. WuSik actually walked out of there with an Earth Shatter available. If they have the counterplay, if they were able to find the Shatter, they maybe could have still won. It's 3 out of 4 for Apudo now. He missed Jazzy on the back end, and because of that, KIX were able to get the Transcendence in, but this is now going to be the final fight for them to get B through.
And Apudo working double time to try and get that EMP up before anyone's dead. He wants to have some teammates to help follow up in as well. Getting another Transcendence already. WuSik out with that Shatter. That's going to be the Transcendence from in response. WuSik baited into a trap there. Muse finds him from behind. And Apudo having long since committed that EMP to resounding effect. Bao taking a nap on the payload, lying on his back there. That's going to be the full hold there from Talon. And KIX nearly capped that point a good 2 times and never quite managed.
Talon Esports just able to continually hold on to that defense, just clawing back in there. A lot of good ultimate usages, and that's really where you start to see Talon just climb on through, where KIX could not, even in situations where you're thinking, this is probably going to be the cap, this is probably going to be where KIX finally managed to get on through. They finally have an opportunity where not every single member is hacked and can defend, and yet still Off the back of that, they weren't able to finish B. And I do have to say, even if they finish B, I'm concerned about their ability to actually complete the map.
Yeah, it would have been tough. And we would have been going into time bank as well. Look, I want to give credit where it's due, though, to KIX. There were some very impressive moments, some very impressive plays there. My mind is immediately drawn. They came into a fight like literally one ultimate to, I think it was about 5 or 6. I think it was 5 and nearly an EMP as well. Landed an absolutely massive Earth Shatter that not only pulled a ton of ultimates out of Talon, but they also still pretty much won the fight off that as well. That is really incredible. It was very well placed. A couple of slight blunders, like the charge in bumping Muse away was a little bit rough. You don't actually have to charge. You almost don't want to when you're on that high ground, very narrow there. You don't want to accidentally remove yourself from the fight by ending up on low ground. But on the whole, really great plays. Just the rest of it is still not there for KIX, that last 10%.
And as we get past map 2 and heading into maps 3 and 4, it starts to feel like now Talon running away with this game, and KIX slowly trying to get back in there, but they are losing pace. We are going to take a bit of a break. When we come back, maps 3 and 4 waiting right after this.